Hi. Yay. Hi, Susan. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Sam.
This is not working.
Uh-oh. Hi, Adalia. A couple people got knocked off. Hi. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Devin.
Hey, how's it
Hey.
going?
Good. Adalia. She's here. Awesome, y'all. Well, I would love, while we're just waiting for a couple people to log in, we'll give it like one more minute. I'm so proud of you for showing up. Thank you for being here. I'd love to hear in the chat. One word, how are you feeling? Just a check-in. Tired, Devin. I so appreciate you showing up. And even if you need to lay down and listen, that is okay. Kristen's excited. Awesome, Kristen. Thank you. Let's see. Susan. Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hey, I
Hi.
keep trying to turn my camera off, but okay. Anyway, I'm here. How are you?
Awesome. I'm great. We were just dropping in the chat one word, but if you want to say it, one word, how you're feeling in this moment, and it's okay.
I would say at this moment, not super great, but excited for the last few days.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, Dahlia says she's also exhausted. Y'all, I'm so proud of you for showing up for this call, seriously, even in the exhaustion, and for showing up just for this program, even in the exhaustion, even if things aren't perfect. It's just so much more consciousness, so much more mindfulness, and it all counts, even if it isn't perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and begin. And I would love it if y'all are okay with it, just to drop in with a couple breaths to kind of fully arrive for this call. Anything from the day that you don't need to bring into this right now. I'm just going to put you on mute real quick. If you'd like to just find that tall, straight spine, and then allow your shoulders to melt down your back. You can close your eyes or find a soft gaze. And together we're going to take 3 deep breaths. So as you're ready, take a big inhale through your nose. Fill all the way up. And a big audible sigh through your mouth. Letting go. And again, big deep inhale through your nose. Hold at the top. And a big audible exhale through your mouth. Letting go. And one more time, big inhale. Pause at the top. Big exhale. Release. And slowly continue to breathe here. Focusing on sending your breath all the way into your belly. And letting go. Imagine with every exhale, your body releasing tension, releasing any stress from this day. With every breath coming into this here now moment. If you notice your mind attaching to any resistance or just any thoughts, that is okay. To accept what is here, present for you, and allow it to be. Taking this moment to appreciate yourself for having shown up so much over our time together, for making the effort of showing up for this call and showing up for you. Taking this moment to ground, to feel for your body. Feel for your seat and your chair or the surface beneath you. Feel for the earth beneath you. Remind yourself in this moment, you are safe. In this moment, you are loved. In this moment, you are being held. Taking one more full breath in and a full breath out. Before we open our eyes, connecting to an intention for this call. How do you want to feel after our time together today? Breathe that intention in and exhale, send it out. Trusting it is on its way to you. And whenever you feel ready, you can gently flutter your eyes back open and reconnect to the world around you. Thank you so much for going through that. And for everyone who just joined, welcome. And so I just want to honor all of you that we're almost done and you've done so well. And so I would love to be able to go around and celebrate. So celebrate our wins. It's really easy to focus on the times that we aren't perfect or slip up, and our attention can hyper focus there, but it's so important. I know I say this every week, to celebrate your wins, because that is where, when our energy goes, that's what expands, and to appreciate yourselves. So if you'd all be willing, we'll just do like 20 seconds shares of like big celebrations for yourself from this past week. So we'll start. Kristen, are you good to start?
Yeah, I'm good. So my big celebration is just like showing up, kind of like same for last week, just showing up to work out and like move my body. Like it really was nice to be able to do the live workouts with you, Ellie. And having flexibility for myself as well, and self-love, because normally I walk like a lot, like 5 or 6 days a week I try and walk with my husband, but it's been like really freezing weather here. And I just get nervous about walking in the ice since I broke my leg the second time. So celebrating the win of like doing the exercise at home and still like moving my body in ways that feel good and that I can, and doing it with you has been really enjoyable.
Oh, Kristen. Yes. I'm so proud of you and showing up. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Popcorn, Devin, are you okay to share your celebrations or wins?
Sorry, I'm so tired right now. I just woke up from a nap. I think my biggest win, or one of my wins, is I haven't ordered food like in like over a week. I have eaten out, but I have been making like definitely more mindful decisions. Like when I went to Chipotle yesterday, but I haven't like I used to order Uber Eats every day, and DoorDash, and I haven't. So yeah, I think that's for me. That's like, and knowing that this is ending soon, but keeping in my mind that no, this is how I want to live, and I know it's like progress, not perfection. So I'm just excited because it just opened up my eyes, this program, to just how I should be feeling and want to feel. So yeah, just more knowledge, no bad food.
Yeah, Devin. I mean, that's so huge, especially with everything going on in Austin. To be able to do that, that is so awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And with popcorn, let's see. Susan, are you here? Do you want to share your celebrations? Oh, I think you're on mute. Let's see. Wait, Susan, you're on mute. There you go. You're good.
Okay. Oh, I'm just getting a text message that one of my classmates passed away. That's so sad. That's the second one this week. And in a weird way, that is one of the things that keeps motivating me to come back to this. But my win this week has been, I've been taking care of a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 35-year-old. And as hard as it was to stay on track, and I certainly wasn't perfect, but I would say I was at least 85%. And I think that that is what helped me sleep good, keep my energy, and tolerate incessant whining. But that, I think that was my win is, and I was, I didn't eat out. Even when they ordered food in, I tried to eat something that we had at home, and I tried to really meal prep for me, just, having a tuna or a something to snack on as a go-to, at least a buffer before we got to the brownies and the cookies.
Yeah, Susan. And I love what you said about, just back into the comment about the tolerance for whining and the tolerance. I mean, and that is literally what we're doing, even with eating this way or choosing healthier foods, that we're creating that tolerance for stress. Because if we're eating foods that are draining our energy, it's like we don't have the bandwidth to take on, like, other things just feel so annoying or overwhelming. So that is such a good thing to notice. I'm so proud of you, even with everything you have going on. Awesome. And I'm so sorry about your classmates too. Awesome. Let's Hillary, are you here? Would you like to share your wins?
Absolutely. Again, I'm in the sauna because this is my sauna time. So I'll save everybody. But my win was definitely with my not murdering my children. So I'm going to call that a win. Just being home with the kids, and literally we've been baking and crafting and cooking and doing everything. And I mean, I haven't been perfect, but I have been at least probably 80%. So I got down on myself for a day, and then I was like, you know what? This is part of it. This is a roll with the punches. I'm here with my kids. I'm going to make this special. So kind of had a reframed mindset about halfway through. So I have not been perfect. This week has been absolutely bananas, as I'm sure it is for everybody in the Austin area, but we've made it through.
Yes, Hillary. There's so much to celebrate. Thank you. And yes, to just be able to roll with what's life's happening and not to have to be perfect. It's so important. Thank you for that. And great job. We're going to popcorn to Idalia. Are you here for celebrations?
I am. I'm just in the dark. I'm so tired.
Oh.
So my big win, this has been my biggest pitfall, is when I'm tired, I do a lot of mindless eating. And this week, For instance, last night I only had 3 hours of sleep and had to go to work. And but I was able to not just I was able to be mindful in that during that exhaustion, which usually I'm just like grabbing, a bag of Cheetos and, just stuff that I know is not good, but I don't care because I'm so exhausted. And today, I grabbed some Siete tortilla chips and, had some oranges and had, I was able to control it even though I was depleted. And that is a big deal for me.
Adalia, I think that's so huge and awesome to notice and to be able to have seen that and seen the patterning and to accept that you're tired and not to resist that but to have those options to reach for. I think this is so good.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for your program.
Yeah. Awesome. We're going to bounce to, let's see, Heather, are you here?
Yes. Yeah, I guess my win, I can definitely tell like there's a mentality change, like whenever looking at food or options that like I make better choices. Or I know on Sundays here in Austin, like I visit family for dinners on Sunday. And even though they're cooking something, like I bring an alternative, like if they're making pasta, like I'll bring my own spaghetti squash. Like I can just tell like thinking of things like that is definitely changed. And also too, like I know I haven't been perfect in the program, but like I've really tried and usually I would have just like given up and oh well, but I can definitely tell like for the next meal, like, okay, well, like try, I don't know, I can just tell that I haven't given up and definitely like don't beat myself up because I haven't been perfect.
Yes, Heather. This is so good. And that's so awesome to navigate your family like that with the spaghetti squash and just like those kind of ideas.
Yeah, it's good to do. They're supportive. They're not like, I don't know, put you down. They're like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you. And let's see. So we have Sam, but her audio, she said her audio isn't working.
Can
Sam,
you hear me?
you're here? Yeah.
If this works. Okay, I think there's a bit of a lag, so bear with me. But I will quickly share. I've been traveling since this started, which I have a lot of gratitude for, but it's definitely come with its own set of challenges in terms of just like access to certain ingredients and the gym and things like that. But I've consistently left space for mindfulness in terms of like taking initiative when it comes to meditation or stretching and things like that. So I'm really proud of myself for that. And then also in situations where there's like if you're in Costa Rica, you should live like the Costa Ricans do and like try the empanada or whatever it may be, where those ingredients are not so good. I'm not like beating myself up about it and feeling super guilty. I'm able to like let whatever emotions I'm having happen, pass, and then continue on with making better decisions, if that makes sense.
Yes, Sam. I think that's so much sense. And it's such good like practice to be able to do that with traveling and like what you're saying, even allow yourself. It's like the concept of like worth it foods, like in those moments to be able to like really be present with the food and enjoy it. But it doesn't mean like the day's ruined or like to beat yourself up, like you're saying, like to have had presence with the food and acceptance and be able to love that and then come back to your what you like foods that you feel good with. I think that's such awesome mindfulness and practice. And that I think it's like Olympics for mindful eating when we go travel. So I think it's so awesome that you were able to do so much while you were traveling. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for your shares. And the next thing I wanted to do was, so this is our final session. But I do want to go through challenges that have happened this week. So is there anything, if y'all want to drop in the chat, anything that was particularly challenging specifically this week before we move into our topic of the day? Austin weather is keeping inside too long. Yes. So if anyone's not from Austin, Austin's having like a lot of power outages. They've got a winter storm. Roads are really icy. So a lot of people are stuck inside with a lot of no power. And it's, yeah, Hillary says it too, hectic week, kids. And it can create a lot of boredom or restlessness, stress, just out of the norm. Devin, a challenge for me has been being hungover. I did eat Cane's the next day. Need some good healthy hangover food. Yes, and this is all learning. This is so good. Even with being stuck inside, noticing like boredom eating patterns and like things to get endorphins, even movement and stuff. Because a lot of times being inside can feel there just needs to be energy moved. And a lot of times we're reaching for food for that. And then with Devin, the hangover food, yes, to set yourself up for success. If you are going out, like to not deny yourself of drinking if that's something that you enjoy or want to go out with friends. But to have those like readily available hangover foods, things that I used to like have Chipotle in my fridge ready for me in the morning, or like just having stuff, really easy stuff in the morning, setting your future tired self up for success. So that's so good to learn. And Susan being back in her hometown and the call of her favorite restaurant and king cake. I feel that, Susan. Mardi Gras season. So that is a big challenge, and it's just to continue like y'all are doing, to come from the place of like, is this, how do I want to feel? And is this, and maybe the king cake is like a worth it food, but, or treating this 21 days as like the experiment of what do I feel like if I don't eat it? And maybe after the 21 days, reintroducing it and seeing how it affects your body, how it affects your cravings. Or if you are going to eat it, as I mentioned with Sam, just like she did, like just embracing it, like slowing down with it, having presence, eating every bite with intention, and then letting that be the mindful indulgence, and then just going back to the foods that you know nourish your body versus it being like, today's ruined, I'm just going to eat everything now. But to really like loving on that experience and then coming back to higher self. Kristen, self-doubt, not feeling like I'm really doing it. Kristen, I'd love you to, could you speak to that a little bit? I'm not quite sure. What do you mean I'm really doing it?
I think I just have like, I think I suffer from like imposter syndrome in general, like not feeling like I'm doing it well enough or something. Like I really followed the program. So, I mean, I just try and like, I've been trying to just show up really proud of myself and like excited and things like that. Just so I can keep the momentum going, like even after the group. So I think just like recognizing that for myself is like kind of a pattern in my life right now, and just trying to fight against that.
Yes, Kristen, thank you for sharing that. I think this can come up for a lot of us, especially when other people are sharing stuff and wins. It's like, oh, well, could I be doing better? And so I think, I mean, this is so valid. And I think so many of us have this, and to be able to like love that part of you that's doubting, and then also to like tell that part of you that may be doubting, and she's maybe coming from a hurt place of like, look at all that I am doing, all that I am crushing. And but thank you for sharing it, because it's so real. And to like notice any comparison, and just like one day at a time, how am I up leveling? Look how much that progress is. So much progress. So Hillary, I had to work on being disappointed in myself for not being 100% compliant, but the group Facebook page was a massive help. Yes. And I just want to, again, commend you for reaching out to the group, Hillary, because it can be easy to kind of stay isolated or let that kind of disappointment keep us in like the feelings of shame, or just like not wanting to express, like that's vulnerable to express that. So I just want to commend you for that. And then being able to be supported and receive that support, because you are doing awesome. And it's so easy to get hard on ourselves when we're not 100% compliant. But this group is like, it's not about that. And I hope that you've gotten that from everybody, because I do want this to be a lifestyle, and there's no way we're going to be 100% compliant in our life every day for the rest of our life. This is an ebb and flow. This is a learning how to adapt and how to do the best we can. And then when we falter, and that's what a lot of what we're going to talk about today with emotional eating. Like emotional eating isn't some finite thing that you just all of a sudden you never eat emotionally again. If that's something that you've done, it's not a finite place. It's a learning, again, the adaptation. And when we do emotionally eat or we do fall, like, I don't even want to say fall off track, but like veer off of what we really desire for ourselves. It's like just the way we can, as quickly as possible, just get right back. Just coming back, like meditation. We're just coming back again and again and again. And let's see. And the community, Idalia says, knowing that she's not alone. And thank you for saying that, Idalia. I think it's so special to be able to witness everybody else. Sometimes it can feel like, I remember when I was like deep in sugar addiction, like it was bad. And I felt like I was so alone. Like I didn't know anyone else was dealing with that. So it's so healing to know that it's very common. And a lot of times people we don't even know, most people, and especially in the United States, have a lot of these just like struggle with eating. So thanks for saying that, Idalia. Community is so helpful. Awesome. Well, with that, I do want to, before we actually go into our emotional eating topic, I'd love for everyone to like collectively think on, what do you want to take away from these 21 days? Like that this is meant to be have not been just some like thing you do for 21 days and then go back. And I know a lot of y'all feel that, like the momentum to want to keep going, to want to keep growing, to want to make this into your way of being, mindfulness. And so
Yeah. Hey, Ellie, I have a quick question. So
Yeah.
I definitely know like after 21 days, I definitely want to keep going. I can just tell a difference how I feel. Is the hub going to still be open after the 21 days, or does it lock after?
It'll lock after 14 days after the 21 days. But if there's any resources you need, I'll send them to you. You can just ask.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And is the Facebook group closing too, or is that stay open?
That'll stay open.
Okay. Okay. Just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah. And great question. And so I'd love to even let y'all unmute yourselves if you want to share like your biggest takeaways or learnings from this program, what you want to bring with you, or any ahas you had over these last, I think we're on day 18.
To me, this has been the longest I've ever gone, in a long time, with just being mindful and slowing down. And yes, I had a bump, but it's funny. I was like, I confessed. I told my husband, I was like, I just need to confess. Okay. Like, just listen to me. It was like, I fell off the wagon. And of course he was like, get back on. I was like, okay, I know you're right. So it's also allowed me to have some really important conversations with my husband, who is my support system, and although like I'm a fitness fanatic, pretty healthy eater, and I've never seen the man eat a vegetable, nor has he ever gone to the gym with me, but he is becoming my emotional support. And this has kind of given us a really good bridge to open and talk about it, I guess, if you will. So this has been extremely healing. Not just, it's been very interesting and eye-opening, and it's been it's been a huge step. I can't say enough good things about it. So it's brought a lot of things to light, and just being able to discuss, especially with the group and with my own support system. So I'm super appreciative, and that's what I want to continue to do.
Hillary, thank you so much. I think it's so huge that you had that opening with your husband, and that you all have him, and y'all can have that relationship and keep getting deeper with each other, that emotional connection. That's so awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like my aha moment is kind of like, you don't have to deprive yourself. Like there's always like healthy substitutions, or I don't know, I guess different ways you can prepare things that you still feel like you're having your favorite foods, but just like a healthier version. So that's kind of inspired me to keep going, because you can still have what you want, but just in a different, healthier way.
Absolutely, Heather. Yes. Thank you.
I think for my aha moment is you really have to prepare, personally for me, because like this week I didn't, like I did last week, and I'm tired, really tired, and I was always really tired before. So I think my big thing is that I need to just really, if I don't set that day and time away to prepare for the week, it's kind of like up and down in the week. And so I have to really like dedicate that time to be like, okay, you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to make your list and you're going to have your stuff set. Because if not, if I put it off, I'm like, just like nitpicking in my fridge what I can make. I have to be prepared. And I feel like it's easier. Like this whole thing is not easy at all, but it's easier when I'm prepared. When I'm not, I'm just like, oh fuck. You know what I mean? So definitely I need to just be more prepared, I guess.
Yeah, what's so good to know for yourself. And you can tell too.
Yeah.
And if you are off, it's not like you're like bad or you're moral failure. It's like, oh, my systems weren't in place to set me up for success. So I can just go back there and do that. Yeah. Is there anything that helps you prepare? Like to really create that time?
Your sheet that you had put out, or the like Monday, Wednesday, like that definitely helped, like the do's and don'ts. I think I have to set time to look on Pinterest and find recipes that I like. My main thing is on, like, I have a busy work week. So on either, if I don't get this done Sunday or Monday, for the rest of the week, it's not going to happen. So I have to make myself do it. Even if I have something planned, I need to figure out a way to be like, okay, you need to still get this done, you know?
Totally. Yeah. And I think, Devin, even for everybody, like this, if it is like a newer way of being or eating, that it's just going to continue. The more you plan, the more you do it, I feel like the more it's just going to become second nature. Like you'll have these defaults that you won't even have to plan as much, but maybe right now it feels like more effort to plan, but hopefully every time you do it, it'll just become like a little bit less energy output. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I also think that I know that my sugar, because I crave sugar a lot, like candy and stuff, especially like around my period. And last night, I'm getting my cycle next week. And I smoke at night, smoke weed. So I'm just like double whammy for cravings. But I just like will think about it and I'm just like, whatever. I just keep thinking about it. I'm just like, it's fine. You can't have it, like whatever. And eventually it just goes away. And I'm just like, oh, I like today I felt so good that I didn't drive to the gas station to get a Reese's. I'm like, you didn't do it. Like you resisted the temptation to like go have instant gratification for a piece of chocolate or something. And so I feel like the more that I practice that, it just gets easier, you know, down the road.
Yes, Devin, that is so good. Thank you. And did anyone else want to share their aha takeaway, lesson learning?
I'll share. Mine is that I'm not addicted to cheese. Like I love cheese and I always have, like my whole life. Like I just love savory things and whatever. And I don't even feel like I've been missing out. Like I can't even believe we're this far in and I haven't like cheated with cheese because I really thought I would. I'm not gonna lie. And I even have cheese in my house. And like I made my nephew homemade mac and cheese 2 days ago and like some for my husband and stuff. And I wasn't even tempted to eat it. I was just like, nope, I'm gonna choose to eat, you know, this roast that I made. And like I went up to my nephew's house to bring him the mac and cheese and visit with my great nephew and meet him. And I just brought myself like a chopstick and some nuts and like I just knew I wasn't gonna have it, you know. And so I was fine with it. And it didn't feel like I was missing out or anything like that. I felt like I was making a choice for myself so that I could feel good later.
Yes, Kristen, I think that's so huge. And sometimes I love what you like that, because sometimes we think we're going to be attached to certain foods, but it's so beautiful to see like when you kind of, it's not part of your life and eventually you stop thinking about it. That's so cool. Awesome. Anyone else want to share? Oh,
I have one more that's Hillary, not to steal, but I'm like a compulsive gym goer. Like if I'm bored and my kids are at school, and work is done, 90% of the time I'm at the gym. And instead, I really only this whole time I've gone to the gym like once and then really made myself practice stretching, foam rolling, meditating. And I think my body is finally like, thank you, bitch. Like, and my body feels so much better. And it's just one of those things that I'm bored and I get like, that's where I want to be. And I realize it's super abnormal. But I've just come to a habit of doing 2-a-days for no really even reason other than just I get bored and, or, you know, have extra time. And so I read like 3 books in 2 days. Like, it's like, I'm realizing part of that, like, it's okay to calm down, calm your brain, meditate. And I'm still not good at meditating. I still suck at it really bad, but every morning I'm trying. And that's just something that I never took the time to do. So, and it's only because of this. I would have never, ever in a million years joined your meditation calls. So yeah.
Hillary, this is so good. Oh man. And I just want to say, because I have to there's no bad at meditation. There's no bad at meditation.
I'm pretty bad.
There is, agreed with Ellie. You just begin again.
Just begin again.
Ellie will always be like, come back. And I'm like, oh, where am I? I have no idea. I'm so far down the rabbit hole, but it's really, you know, like I said, it's not something I feel comfortable with yet, but dang it, I'm giving a college try every single morning. So before I get out of bed. So
Really, this is so huge.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Awesome. And then Sam commented in the comment sheet, making a choice for myself, or her takeaway, making a choice for myself so I could feel good later. Asking myself, how am I going to feel physically, not just emotionally, based on a choice? Alcohol, decadent, sweets, etc. has been a huge help in terms of the commitment to stick with stuff. Sam, thank you for this. This is so good. And this is something it personally helped me too. I resonate with so much with this, is that being able to create that little pause of the future projection of like, how is this going to make me feel? And I like what you said, not just emotionally, but like physically. Oh, I'm going to feel bloated, or I'm going to feel tired. It's going to make me get in, like, to a craving spiral. And is that what I want? And it's not like, oh, that's bad, or I'm bad if I choose that. It's just like, what do I want to feel? So thank you for that. Awesome. Okay. Well, if anyone else has anything they want to share, drop in the chat and we can pause and let you off mute, because I'd love to hear it. But we're going to move on though. But if you do have something else to share, please drop it in the chat and we'll pause. Okay. So we're going to move into our emotional eating topic of this session. And we've talked a lot about this throughout this 21 days. So some of it may be repeating, but a lot of times it's the continuous washing of this information that really helps it to stick and will bring new awarenesses to you, I hope. So I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. Share. Okay. Everyone. So y'all are all on videos off. So I'm assuming you can see this, but if you can't, drop in the chat and let me know if you cannot. But we're going to go through really mindful eating tools this is really how we transform our relationship with food. So walking through the why, what, when, where, and how am I eating? And that's what we're going to do in this session. Okay, so the first is the why am I eating? And so this is one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves every time we reach for food. If you can take one breath, one conscious breath before you, like if you have the impulse to go grab something, why am I eating this? Or why am I looking to eat? Am I actually hungry? Is this true hunger? So there's a difference between emotional hunger versus physical hunger, and our head hunger versus true hunger. And it's really learning to start getting into our body to understand what, because a lot of us, I know for myself, completely disconnected from my body, especially with food. Food was a way to numb, to cope. So when there's a stress trigger, it's like I'm out of my body and I'm just grabbing for things. And so the practices of coming back into your body in those moments of grounding, of sending your breath like we do in meditation deep into your belly, grounding your energy back in. Something that can even help is like, I'll like tap my heart or tap my wrists. And it's like coming back, like I'm coming back in my body to check in. Okay, so the really starting to tune into, is this emotional or physical hunger? And a lot of the ways we can tell that is emotional hunger is typically comes on really fast. And it's like all of a sudden, it's like this, oh my gosh, I need food, like right now. And physical hunger usually is a gradual hunger. Sometimes we let ourselves get way too ravenous and then it becomes an urgent thing, but it's typically it's growing, it's a growing sensation. And so that's one way. Another way you can sense if it is an emotional hunger is that it's typically not like a growling in our belly, that's physical hunger, or like maybe an irritability or starting to get brain fog because we're maybe low blood sugar. Emotional hunger tends to be a lot up here in our heads, or we're breathing in our chest in a stress state. And so it's recognizing even in those moments of why am I reaching for food right now? The second question could be, am I breathing? Am I like, how's my breath? And so often it's up here, or it's like in our throat or really high. So like really getting it. I know I've just said this, but like sending it down to your belly. And oops, let me grab this. Another way to tell for emotional eating. One second, I had some notes. Okay, if specific foods. So many of you may have heard this before, but like a lot of times when we're really hungry, we'll eat anything. It's like, give me anything. I'm so hungry, I'll eat it. But when we're emotionally hungry, a lot of times it's a craving for a certain food, carbs, sugar, maybe Kristen, maybe cheese in the past, but certain specific food cravings. So that's a lot of times a sign that it's an emotional hunger. Also, emotional hunger typically isn't satisfied. So even if we're physically full, a lot of times we'll keep wanting to eat. And one of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Michelle May, and she says, when a craving does not come from true hunger, food will never satisfy it. So it's really starting to check in, like, what do I actually need in this moment? What am I hungry for? Hungry for connection, hungry for love, hungry for feeling of safety, of security, a desire. A lot of times it's a hunger for a calm, being in a stress state. Our nervous system, like food is very calming, very grounding, very a sense of security in that. Many of us, when we're little, we derived security from food. And that's a biological, that's a evolutionary thing, that if we got food, we knew we were safe. And so, but now we've got an abundance of food, but our nervous systems don't always think that we're safe in a chaotic world, in an uncertain world. And so there's a connection with that for many of us. And Idalia, yes, hungry for sleep. Am I tired? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I thirsty? So these are such good things to know. And that's one thing I think it's so helpful. And I sent y'all a PDF in the email I just sent out to remind you about this session and I'll pull it up on the screen, but it's really understanding your specific triggers. And so Idalia, mine's one of the hunger or tiredness is one of mine too. When I'm super tired, I just want to eat like all day. And it's this feeling of relaxation. It's a feeling of just this, wanting a feeling of calm. And so recognizing that is one of your triggers, and just like what you did, which I'm so proud, it's like, you don't even, in those moments, even if you are hungry, even if you're just exhausted and you do eat, it's not like to not shame yourself for that, to recognize like, I am exhausted and I'm witnessing this hunger and I know it's exhaustion. What can I eat that would still serve my body? Even if I am feeling hungry, even though I'm tired. And like, just like what you did, you chose the siete chips, you chose the oranges. And so it's having those up-leveled options. It's not necessarily denying yourself the food, it's being aware and conscious of what's going on versus just being completely unconscious, and to reach for things that still serve your body, that are, if you're exhausted, you're needing energy, things that what can give me energy versus just deplete me even more, worse in my sleep, that are just going to perpetuate this tiredness. So yeah, So really identifying your cues, and let me pull up the PDF real quick, because there's a lot of triggers, and they're not just emotional triggers. A lot of them are even physical cues, going into a grocery store and seeing M&Ms, and all of a sudden you want M&Ms, but you didn't want them 10 minutes ago. So let me pull that up real quick. Here we go. Okay. So other food triggers, if you can start connecting with yourself, thirst. So this is like, these are how we can proactively set ourselves up for success, to make sure you're getting enough water during your day so that you're not end up craving. And this isn't like necessarily like, we can become dehydrated very quickly. Like even 2% dehydration can cause a lot of cognitive dysfunction, can cause a lot of cravings right away. And so to check that, if you're reaching for food impulsively, it's like, okay, can I not deny yourself with the food, but can I grab water first if I haven't drinking much water today? Fatigue, we just spoke to that one. Sometimes it's just the physical trigger is like an urge to want to chew or have a crunch or suck on something. And that's tends to be a coping mechanism. And so like a stress relief that you may use. So it's like just recognizing that urge, and can maybe you chew on a piece of gum or somehow get that stress out in another way. Sometimes when we're in pain, we want relief from physical pain, and we can get that relief, a temporary numbing from food. So it's recognizing that. Hormonal cycles, Devin, you spoke to this. This is very valid. Our bodies are going through a lot of hormonal shifts, whether we're right before our period or as women, we go through cycles, even premenopausal, postmenopausal, and to not deny yourself of those hormones, but like, how can we, during those cycles, those times, if we are hungry or if we are craving more carbs, how can we choose ones that are still serving our bodies? So like Devin, like something that's really helpful is to have like sweet potatoes ready to eat, or like, if you really crave chocolate, can you have some like really like dark, good chocolate, or like the Simple Mills brownies? Like if you know you're going to want that, like to not try to just keep resisting and then end up binging on something that's not going to serve your body, and to have an up level. It's like, okay, during this time of the month, this happens. And you may need more calories, you may need more carbs during that time. So sometimes it's really listening to our body. And environmental triggers, certain holidays, travel. We've mentioned the weather. Certain weather triggers certain hunger. I don't know if y'all know, on like rainy days when you're just cozy inside, or it's really cold, just kind of want to sit on the couch and eat. And just noticing those behaviors and asking yourself, like, what is going to serve me? It's not necessarily that that's bad, but like, how can you eat mindfully around that? Smelling a certain food. I was at this, I'm in Mexico, and every time I went to get coffee, there's just like fresh cookies, like smelling. I'm like, I get why people just go here and just eat everything because the smell, but being able to say, again, coming back to that, like, if I wasn't smelling this right now, or if this wasn't right in front of me, like I wouldn't have wanted it. So can I let this pass? And like Devin said, she had these sugar cravings, and like, if you just watch them and not indulge in them, like they will pass. Everything's changing, everything's passing, it's temporary. And so that future projection, is even Sam mentioned, like the future projection of being able to say, how am I going to feel in 5 minutes? Oh, I can just wait 5 minutes and then I can feel awesome and be so proud of myself. Like, and that's where the practice of meditation helps so much, because it allows us to sit in impulse. It allows us to like, oh, I could ride out 5 minutes. And then other triggers to notice for yourself are like, say you do like really well all the time, but the triggering things are events, dining out, certain social events that you go to. And so y'all have done such a great job with this, but it's like learning how to continue to navigate those, to plan for them. And if you slip up at one, like that's okay. It's all learning, and to just be able to slow down when you go. And then the emotional triggers, as we've spoken to, things like looking, the desire for pleasure, a lot of us are trained that food is as reward. And so when we want reward, a lot of times it's like, oh, I'm gonna go celebrate with ice cream, or I'm gonna celebrate with cake. And so recognizing that, how can I have a non-edible reward? Oh, I'll go sit in the sun. I'll go indulge in something else indulgent, like a massage, something that you can give yourself that's not food. It's like a retraining to recognize when you're starting to use food as reward. And emotional triggers, feeling so much of addiction, so much of like, especially like sugar addiction or food addiction, is a desire to feel connection with ourselves, connection with something higher, something greater, a connection of love. And the lack of love, if we didn't get that, a lot of times it's just like we're getting this feeling of connection through food, of love. So can you practice things like we had that self-love meditation? Can you bring that into your life? If that's one of your triggers, if you feel like that might be something that you're feeling that's causing you to eat. Boredom is such a huge one, I know, for myself. And to recognize, and we're so stimulated all the time. And so this is again why meditation helps. Can I sit in this boredom? Can I just be bored? Can I just be bored and not have to impulsively reach for food? Or to recognize, oh, this is boredom. Let me move some energy in my body, maybe some breath work, maybe some getting outside and just getting out of your current energy state instead of reaching for food to do that. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Feeling overwhelmed is very common to want to reach for food because it's a way to like calm your central nervous system in the moment. And so other ways to work with overwhelm. Oh, here's the overwhelm. It's here. Welcoming it as a guest and not having to be sucked into the overwhelm, but like being able to see what's happening. What am I feeling in my body? Again, coming back to the body. Oh, I feel like overwhelm in my chest, or I feel shortness of breath in my chest. I feel anxious in my belly. Can I breathe this down? Again, this too shall pass. Recognizing, oh, I'm reaching for food because I'm feeling overwhelmed. What do I actually need in this moment? Grounding, comfort from a friend, maybe. And that pairs with loneliness, with the comfort from a friend. I'm feeling lonely right now. Can I connect with somebody? Can I connect with myself? Can I connect with spirit? And so I won't go through all of these, but I think it's super helpful if y'all even go through this, print this out or circle it on your computer, the ones that you feel like are your biggest triggers, and then write out like, what would help me? Hillary, did you want to say something?
Oh, sorry. No.
Okay. Okay, no problem. But thank you for what you dropped in the chat. She said,
Sorry.
that's okay. Being overwhelmed and stressed is her 100% my trigger. Yes. So this is so good. The data you have. So it's not to shame yourself if you end up eating in these moments. It's like, how can I, the emotional eating or binge eating or eating something that we know isn't serving our bodies, that's a symptom. It's a symptom of an underlying problem. I guess a problem, but like an underlying need. And so if we're not addressing that need, then we're just going to keep continuing these patterns. And Devin says, smoking weed's my trigger, but I need another program to help me quit that. Well, and Devin, I mean, these practices are similar with weed. The same way of breaking an attachment with weed is the same kind of with sugar, with foods that don't serve you. It's noticing, even pausing in the moment. I mean, I used to be super like abusing Adderall. I was addicted to stimulants. And so every time it was the same way I got off sugar. It was like, why am I reaching for this right now? What am I feeling? And I had like such a story in my head that I needed that to function or I needed that to work. And so and being gentle with yourself, but speaking to the part that may feel that attachment to weed and just checking in or just building that mindfulness awareness around it. And if it is your trigger, even if you're still smoking weed, to have like really great foods around you so that you are eating, that they're healthy foods. Awesome. Okay. So let me stop sharing that. And we're going to move into the next one. Let me pull this up again. Thanks for y'all's patience with my slides. Okay, the next thing I wanted to share about this was the concept of adaptation energy, which is one of the biggest reasons we fall back into old patterns, is just not having the energy to choose the new pattern. So what this means, adaptation energy. So we have a given amount of energy coming into a day based on how we slept, how we how we ate the previous day, what stressors we have going on. Things are just eating our energy all day long. But we also have things that replenish our energy: meditation, breath work, exercise, sleep. And we can be really hard on ourselves if we fall back into an old pattern. But so much of the time, it's because we have let our energy bucket just drain so far down that we don't have the energy to choose the new conscious pattern. So when we have, say we've been emotionally eating or eating because we like the stress connection. So every time we're stressed, we're reaching for food, stressed, reaching for food. That is a super highway pathway in the brain. The neural, like right when you're stressed out, your brain's instantly like, where's food? So if that's super carved out, that's the path of least resistance. So if we don't have if we are changing our habit to now, every time I'm stressed, first I'm going to breathe and grab a club soda. That's a new pattern. Well, if you've just started that pattern, it's like going on a forest path that has not been paved before. So it takes a lot more energy for your mind to do that. So it's like trying to figure out this new path. Oh, like remembering how to breathe, remembering how to get the club soda. It's just more. It's not the path of least resistance. But when we have a lot of energy, when we've well slept, we're eating great, we're in momentum, it's like, oh yeah, I can take this forest path. Like I'm willing to go through that. But if we get depleted and we didn't get sleep or something, the snowpocalypse happens, or we're just so burnt out, then our brain will just naturally, it's going to revert to the superhighway because it's easy. And it's not like you did anything wrong. It's just that's what happens. So to recognize that it's not something to shame yourself about. It's like, okay, what was going on for me? How can I build my energy bucket back up so I can take my new path again, until it gets to the point where I'm taking that new path so many times that it becomes the path of least resistance. So I hope that makes sense. So checking in throughout the day, like what can I do to honor my energy, to keep my energy reserves up, or noticing when they start to really get depleted and not to keep burning yourself out, because then we'll end up in a binge or end up like doing things that we know aren't good for us because we're running on empty. All right, so this next part is how am I eating? So we just did the why am I eating, how am I eating? If you can take anything away from this program, one thing is slowing down and really building presence with your food. And I know I've put this in, I think, a couple of the emails, but starting to create rituals when you eat. If you can take at least like 3 breaths right before you put food in your mouth. Am I in a stress state right now? Let me take a couple breaths. You can use the 5-5-7 breaths, and to assess even where you're at on your hunger scale. A lot of times for food decisions or overeating comes from letting ourselves get too hungry. So if you can think of your hunger scale on from 0 to 10, 2 being like the gas light is coming on, 10 being that you are ravenous about to eat your arm. We don't want to let it get past like a 5, because then we start just getting just too hungry. So just assess yourself even through the day of like, where am I at on my hunger scale? And then the same thing goes for the fullness scale. If eating to a 10 is like bursting through your pants, like so uncomfortably full, miserable, we want to eat to like a 7 where we feel satiated, but not overstuffed, where there's still a little room in the tank. And that's a learning. It's really learning your body. I was a chronic overeater, and it was learning how to slow down and really choosing how I wanted to feel after the meal. I don't want to feel stuffed. I don't want to feel like I need a nap because I ate too much. And so it was starting to choose that, and really, but it took slowing down with my meal. And there's things that you can do during your meal. There's one is called the speed bump, where if you have a plate of food, a lot of times overeating happens like dining out. So if you have a plate of food, you can divide your plate of food in half. And when you get to the halfway point, this is a chance to like put your fork down, take some breaths, assess where you're at on your fullness scale. And if you're getting close to that 7, maybe put your food in a to-go box, so you're not just eating because other people are eating. Get yourself a hot tea, a decaf coffee, a club soda, that you have something to go to while other people are eating, or just giving yourself a break from it and reminding yourself you can always eat again. You can always eat again. yeah, so a lot of us have like this a scarcity. I know I did when I was little. I was always trying to make sure I got enough. I was the youngest of 4, and it was like, make sure you eat as much as you possibly can because your siblings are going to eat it, or like being really limited in the amount of sweets we got. So it was like just so hyper excited and wanting to overeat all the time. So I've had to like watch that little Ellie, like when something like that happens, and it's like slowing back down, grounding back into my adult self of like, what do I need right now? How do I want to feel? And presence with food. So really in your routines with eating, like letting your food be a ritual of gratitude and of having presence with it, is going to help you with your food decisions because you're really conscious of what you're putting in your body, but also it's going to help with satiation signals. It's going to help just not overeating, and it helps digestion. It's so huge for digestion. Our digestion decreases almost 4 times when we're in a stress state or if we're eating really fast. So our brain doesn't even register that we've eaten. And then later we might end up wanting to eat more. So rituals of this are like really practicing sitting down when you eat and putting your food on a plate, putting your phone away, putting your computer away, and reminding yourself it doesn't take that long to eat, maybe like 5-10 minutes. So to gift yourself that time. And also noticing any patterns of like, if you're eating in secret, if you feel like you're hiding something, like just noticing that and catching that behavior, and tuning into, again, this is probably an emotional need. So what are you needing emotionally here? What's going on for you? And to come with it with gentle curiosity versus judgment. All right, the next part of this, oh wait, let me see, someone said something in the chat. Oh, okay, CBD. Thank you guys. Okay, so this next part is creating environmental boundaries. This was also in one of the emails. So checking in when and where are you eating. If you notice yourself, like a lot of times boredom eating or stress eating, what can be really helpful is creating time boundaries for mindfulness. So if you know typically in a given day that you eat like breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, dinner at 6, well, to be able to recognize then in between those windows, maybe it's like 7 to 8 are your eating windows, 12 to 1, 6 to 7. In between those windows, if you're reaching for food, it's not to deny yourself of the food, but it's a chance to prompt yourself. Am I hungry? Why am I reaching for this right now? And to reach for water first and see if you can make it till the next meal that you normally eat at. And if you are truly hungry, then to absolutely eat, and to maybe add some more protein and healthy fat, and just choosing like a great option. But it's just super helpful with mindfulness to create those windows if that's something you feel like you struggle with. Also, the where am I eating? A lot of places give us cues to want to eat. So like if you're used to eating on the couch every night, chips or ice cream while watching TV. Well, if you go to sit, if that's like a routine and that's been a habit, then now if you go sit on the couch and you don't have the ice cream or the chips, your brain is already queued up to want to get those. So you may have more cravings there. And so to give yourself, to notice that, and to give yourself like a hot tea or a decaf coffee or water and create a new habit, but to create spaces where you eat in your house or at work, that you're not eating at your desk, that can you get up and create a sacred space so it doesn't get mixed signals. Because then if you're eating at your desk, then every time you're sitting at your desk, your brain's like, oh, should we be eating right now? So if you can create those spaces, it really helps your nervous system to associate food with, oh, I'm at the dinner table, now it's time to eat. Cue up hunger hormones, cue up salivary enzymes, and let's start eating. And then when you go to work, or you're at your desk, or you're on the couch, it's like that's the singular task we're focused on. All right, and then we've talked a lot about this one. What am I eating? So a lot of the emotional eating can be very exacerbated by hyperprocessed foods. They can create a lot of emotional dysregulation. If we're blood sugaring, we're getting irritable and upset and a lot less tolerable to other people. And that in itself will just lead to more eating of those hyper processed foods because they give us that temporary relief, and it creates an addiction cycle. And we also, when we eat those kind of foods, we get more of a dopamine hit. So we crave more of a dopamine hit, and then we crash a lot harder. And so when we can get off of those, like I've done in this reset, you become a lot more regulated, and it's a lot easier to handle things. We have more energy to handle things. And so it's learning also, if you have a specific craving, like what am I eating? Also, what am I craving? What does this specific food do for me, and what boundaries do I need for it? And you're going to learn this even as we speak to reintroduction of certain foods that may specifically cause you cravings or cause you to overeat, or maybe it's a certain food that you know is an emotional eating food for you that you reach for when you're tired, or you reach for when you're sad or stressed. And so to create boundaries for yourself with it. And I hope that what you take away from this too is that this is really about making conscious choices. So not to shame yourself if you eat something that you feel like isn't, maybe it has gluten in it, or maybe it has a lot of sugar in it, that it's not that you're bad or you did anything wrong. It's really like, if you're going to make that choice, to be able to make it consciously, that you chose it, knowing how it might make you feel, but it was worth it for you in that moment. And that's perfect. But that you slow down with it, and that you eat it with presence and intention, and that it doesn't have to spiral into a binge. That you can, after that, you just eat. You go back to eating the things that you know serve you best. And maybe one time you do eat it and it makes you feel like garbage, and you're like, dang, it's not to shame yourself about that. That's data. It's like, oh, link this food to feeling like garbage. And then the next time you have the option to eat it, it's like, oh, I don't want to feel like garbage. And maybe it takes you 5 times to eat it until you kind of register in your brain. And sometimes it does. And that's okay. And then eventually we get to a point where it's like, this isn't worth it anymore. It's not a worth it food anymore. Adalia says, do you offer this course? Oh, sorry, that was a direct message. She said, do I offer this course other times during the year? I do. I may offer it one more time, probably in the fall. I also have group coaching starting up in March. This is bi-weekly calls for accountability. If you're looking for just sustainable accountability to stay on, to have check-ins, to have more education. So I can share with you about that. And then also other things, y'all, this program I hope you're getting from this is radical self-compassion. When we fall into a binge, or we get off track, or we start to doubt ourselves, it's just really coming back to self-love, that if we had a binge or something, is a lot of times it's needing help, it's needing nurturing, it's needing love, not needing shame, not needing, which is the typical response of shaming ourselves, guilting ourselves, beating ourselves up, restricting that. And that usually ends up just driving maybe temporary change, but usually it drives another binge later on, and just get stuck in those cycles. So the quicker we can come to self-compassion and to practice that, loving ourselves. The mantra that helps me so much is, I am learning, I am learning, I am learning, I am learning. And to nurture ourselves, our child parts. Another thing I'd really advise you guys to look into is IFS, the Internal Family Systems Paradigms. And I'll send some podcast episodes for you in the Facebook group. It's a really good modality to really start to nurture not just your inner child, if you've heard that term, but you literally have inner children that act out. Some of them are the inner critic, and some of them are the binge eater, and some of them are just really hurt parts that need love. And so it's starting to come into our mother, our father energy, our self energy is what it's called, our higher self, our soul, our loving, compassionate selves, to be able to nurture our parts when they come online. And so I will send, and Susan says, yes, more info on group calls. Thanks, Susan. I will send that out for sure. And yeah, to continue to assess what your inner children need in a moment. If you get triggered, if you feel flooded with an emotion, to be able to hold yourself. And that's a practice. It doesn't come always supernaturally, especially if we haven't received that before. And so it's learning how to really nurture yourself. Sometimes I even rub myself, touch myself, my arms, it's okay, it's okay, when we get really activated. And so to really start practicing that, and self-love meditation, self-love affirmations, and sometimes they feel fake in the beginning, sometimes they don't feel authentic. And so, but just to even watch that voice, the one that tells you that that's not true. Okay, what does she need? Where did she learn that wasn't true? Whose voice is that? So starting to really become aware of ourselves. And okay, so I'd love if y'all have any questions on anything. I just spoke a lot. If y'all want to drop that in the chat, and then we'll move into reintroduction and basically life after this reset. Because I want y'all to be set up for success going forward. And I'll just go into this, but if you've got questions, definitely drop them in the chat and I can pause. So the process of reintroduction, there's 2 ways to go about this. So one is that you just, actually 3 ways. One is that you just keep living this way, keep living the reset way, the 21-day reset. If this feels good to you, like there's no need to put things back in. Like you don't have to, but something you may want to. So maybe you want to see how you do with cheese or bread or something you really miss. So there's a way to systematically reintroduce that, or to what's called the worth it reintro. So I'll talk to you about the systematic method. So if you are like really wanting to like treat this as the experiment it was, I would wait. If you're still having certain symptoms, I would keep on the reset till those symptoms, see if they die down, because sometimes it takes longer than 21 days. But if you feel like good and you're wanting to see if these foods were really bothering you, this is a recommendation for the order to reintroduce stuff with. And if any of these you just don't care about, like if you don't care about eating beans, you can just skip it. But I wrote these in the order of like the least inflammatory response, so that you wouldn't, like if we put gluten first, gluten's a really high reactor and you'd probably have symptoms for like a week or so. So then it would be hard to tell then after that if you reintroduced soy, if it was still the gluten that was causing you issues or if it was the soy. So that one's last. Okay, so like least likely to be reactive. So day 1, say you basically eat the same way as the reset, which is like this paleo ancestral way. And then the only thing you reintroduce is legumes. So maybe you do a specific, maybe you just want to see how black beans do for you. So you eat black beans, I would say like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and notice, do you get bloated? Do you get gassy? Do you feel kind of like headachy or tired? And you may have a certain tolerance for legumes. Maybe small amounts are okay. Maybe making sure you like really pressure cook them so the lectins aren't as present. There's less levels of lectins, or maybe certain legumes you do better with. So you can test either multiple legumes, or if you really want to know specific ones, test one at a time. And then after legumes, you would take 2 days going back to the reset to kind of reset your system after the legume exposure, and then going into non-gluten grains. So again, you could do multiple non-gluten grains, but then you might not be able to tell if there's a certain one that triggered you, or you could pick, say you're really missing quinoa. And you're like, I want to see how I do with quinoa. Well, then eating quinoa, ideally at like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or maybe it's just one meal, a good amount, and see again, how do you react? And notice that for the next couple of days how you react, because the reactions can take up to 72 hours to even have like a symptom. So noticing any changes in your skin, any tiredness, again, bloating, gas, digestive issues, fatigue, any aches. Sometimes, especially with legumes and grains, it can just be like, it's so weird. Sometimes it's just like maybe some joint pain comes back. And so it's just really tuning in when you're doing these experiments. And then so giving 2 days off to see if any symptoms show up, and then testing soy. So maybe I would definitely recommend like an organic fermented soy if you're going to test soy, but just trying maybe some tofu, miso, some gluten-free soy sauce that, it doesn't have any wheat in it. So that could be a test on day 6. And then you go give the 2-day space, and then do dairy. So dairy I broke up into 2. And the reason for that, if you remember from the gut health lecture, they have different forms of the casein protein, which is really inflammatory to a lot of people. So goat's, sheep's milk, dairy has an A2 casein. And this, a lot of times, is not a problem for people as far as the casein protein. However, the lactose might still be a problem for you. So that's the sugar in milk, and that's the one that a lot of times people have digestive issues with, or bowel problems. So maybe you tolerate goats and sheep's dairy, and they still have hormones and growth factors. So I wouldn't necessarily be, if you've got acne, if you've got like hormonal issues, maybe not eating it all the time, but at special occasions, if it doesn't, you don't feel like it bothers you. So that could be goat's milk yogurt or goat's milk feta cheese on a salad, and seeing how you feel. And big time is noticing skin, allergies, bloating, digestive issues, gas. And then back to the reset, and then do cow's dairy. So this would be regular dairy, which has the A1 casein protein, which a lot of times is triggered with just a lot of the autoimmune, the definitely the allergies and acne. And so to try regular cheese, and maybe try milk, maybe try like your favorite cheeses and see how you feel. And then again, back to the reset, you might need a little bit more time after dairy. Dairy seems to be a big one for most people. So you might have a pretty hefty reaction after that. And then so to give time, I put 2 days. This is just an example. So definitely listen to your body if you need more time. And then last one, which I don't think, if you're not missing it, I would not put gluten back in. I don't think it serves, this is a personal opinion, so absolutely listen to your body, but I don't think it's serving anyone. It's not a real need for anybody, and it creates a degree of inflammation in all people's guts. So, but if you really want to test it, maybe it's just so you know, test how it does for you. So whole wheat toast or some sort of English muffin, maybe some pasta, and just notice what you feel in your energy, with your bowels, how you feel the next day, the next couple of days, migraines, headaches. And so that's the systematic approach. And Devin says, I miss beans, love my beans, but going to try to keep living like this. And yeah, totally. And that's the next. So this is the systematic approach. The next one is more of, I feel like what more people do. There's just one downside with it. So this is basically slow roll, the worth it strategy, where you continue eating on this 21-day reset. And then when a time comes, maybe you do want to have some beans to eat them. And like when the time comes and when it's worth it, and then just notice. The problem with this though, is if you end up trying something like pizza, it's got dairy and gluten. If you react, you might not know if it's one, the other, or both. And so that's where like trying them each individually can help. Like you really pinpoint it. But I think this is probably the best way, and to live your life as best you can. And then when you do have something, to really notice how your body feels, to remember that certain symptoms, even increased anxiety the next day, maybe feel a depressive state. Sometimes it's hard to remember that could be from the food we ate the night before. And so, yeah, if you do eat something, really pay attention to your body, how it reacts. All right. And then other things is that sugar and carbs, just to notice, sometimes after the reset, they can slowly creep back in, like in more and more and more amounts. So just to continue to be mindful of how much you're consuming, and that by no means are they bad foods. They're just to know how much you're eating and how it's affecting your body. And the life after the reset. So as I just mentioned, just to continue on the reset. And then if you do end up, veering off, maybe you go on vacation and it isn't perfect, that you always have this to come back to. Sometimes it's just nice to say, I'm going to do that again for like 7 days, just to give myself some boundaries again. Sometimes it's really nice to have boundaries, so there's like certain decisions made for you, so there's no wiggle room if you end up just like a lot of stuff starts creeping back in, because that happens. And so sometimes giving yourself like, I'm gonna do this for 7 days, and it can break some attachments that may have come back to certain foods. And yeah, watch out for slippery slopes. Like if you have you start eating your kids' cereal and you realize that becomes a daily habit again, and you're craving it, it's like, okay, maybe I need to take a break for X period of time to really break through that addiction that came back. Or I don't even want to call it addiction, that craving that came back. And like Devin said, planning. So like we have this weekly call, even to set a time in your calendar, 10 minutes, and you're just going to quickly map out your calendar for the week. Even if you don't follow it perfectly, it's just so helpful to have that. And I realize we're going over time. So the other thing is accountability, getting accountability somehow. It is so huge. So if you have a friend that you can reach out to, y'all can plan together on a Thursday morning, or you have friends or family. Or again, I'm starting this group coaching in March, the first week of March. If you want to join that, it'll be $99 a month. It'll be 2 bi-weekly coaching calls and then support. And so if that feels good, or if you really want more in-depth personal coaching, I also do that one-on-one coaching. And with that, also we are over time, so I'm just going to want to honor y'all's time. But I'd love to hear everyone, anything you learned from this session, anything that stuck out to you. If you want to come off mute and share, or if you have to go, no problem. Kristen learns, keep going. Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, I run it. Obviously, if I go to the gym twice a day, I run it like 150 speed all the time, and slowing down is a game changer. So that is something that's, I swear to God, every year I'm like, okay, that's the one thing I want to work on. And I know how good it is for me. I know this has just shown me, so slowing down, being mindful eating, all that good stuff.
Thank you, Hillary. That's so good to know about yourself, and that I'm so glad it's helping so much.
One of the things that you said, Ellie, this is Susan, that you said today that I just kind of resonated with me was like, if you divide your plate in half and stop and take a breath, stop, assess where you are, that I feel like that might be the first time I've heard that, but I really liked that, especially when 1, I'm starving, or 2, I am with a big group of people.
Yeah, Susan. I'm so glad that resonated. I want to hear how it works for you if you have the chance to use it. And like you said, sometimes when we're ravenous, it's like just want to eat everything, but it's really not the need for more food. It's just the need for the urgency of food. So to give yourself that half and then like let it soak in, let your body digest it and receive the satiation. So thank you. I'm so glad you shared that. And Kristen says, I will not be eating gluten. Heck yeah, Kristen. And Devin says, same. More respect for gluten-free askers when I'm at work. Yes. Oh, I wanted to share this too. Actually, I want to let y'all share. Adalia, were you going to share something?
I was, but I lost my train of thought.
Oh, that's okay. All right, y'all. Well, the thing I was going to say was what Devin just said with gluten-free askers. Throughout this, it can be sometimes, I spoke to this on a Facebook Live, I don't know if y'all saw it, but it can be scary sometimes to ask for modifications, or if we go to a social event to tell someone that we're not eating something because it has gluten in it or dairy, or don't want to be extra or too much. And just to notice or to remember that you're worth it. You're worth eating the foods that you want to eat. You're worth expressing your needs. And there's so many ways, and it can be difficult in the beginning, and it's to breathe into that discomfort and to, there's so many ways to ask beforehand, let someone know beforehand, so it's easier than, or bring something to the party, or to say no thank you, or to say no and that's a complete sentence that you don't have to even explain yourself. And if it's a practice, but so many restaurants, they're just so used to it now, people asking for modifications, and it's never like, you're not being too much, and you're worth that like couple minutes of discomfort of asking than to feel bloated the rest of the night or to feel upset with yourself. So yeah, I just wanted to encourage that you're worth asking.
Yeah. Hey, Ellie, because I know you're in Austin. Do you have any like go-to restaurants or I guess like your staples that you go to that are easy to get gluten-free and dairy-free options?
Yeah, Heather. One of my favorites is Picnic. Have you been to Picnic?
No, but it's on my list.
Oh, good. Yeah, Picnic is great. Also, The Well downtown.
Okay.
The Well is great. I also just love Terry Black's. It's really good. But none of the sides, just the brisket. And I'll think of
Okay.
more. I can post some. Let me write that in the note. Great question. Devin
So
says,
then when people are, whenever I guess you're on like a diet, where do you want to go? And then you freeze.
totally. And Adalia says, please post. Awesome. I will. Y'all, that's a great question. Well, before we close, I mean, we're not done yet. And I hope that you, these last 4 days that you finish nice and strong and you're worth it. You're worth showing up for. And if you need help and you need support, that we're here for you. Awesome. Well, everybody have the best night. Stay safe and post if you need anything.
Thank you, Ellie. Have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks everyone. Keep going.